So today I am delighted to have a fantastic guest. Today I am speaking with Sally Roach. She is a yoga, mindfulness and compassion teacher, and I came across her work some time ago because I was looking at supporting people who'd experienced quite a lot of difficulty or trauma in their lives, and this is one of the areas that she is an absolute expert in. So I'm delighted to have Sally on the show tonight. Sally, hello. Welcome
Hi.
to Radio Shield. It's lovely to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
So you are a yoga, mindfulness and compassion teacher. What is that? What does that mean?
Well, I guess I started with yoga, and I've been doing that for quite a long time. Yoga is it tends to be a physical practice, but it doesn't have to be a physical practice of movements and connecting more with our body, becoming more aware of our body, connecting with our breath, sometimes using sound. And it's a holistic way of being. It's a way of looking after our health, but also a way of being in the world. And we practice on a mat or in a group or on our own, so that we can kind of take some of what we practice into our life to reduce our stress and to enhance our relationships and the way that we are with people.
Wonderful. So right now, this is a practice that is so beneficial for people, isn't it?
Yeah, it's and you've got the mindfulness and the compassion component as well. So they together. So mindfulness is about being more aware of what's happening in each moment, connecting with the body, connecting with our thoughts and feelings, and rather than when something's difficult, we can kind of get very locked into a particular way of thinking, or we can catastrophize and or get overwhelmed by our fear. And mindfulness helps us to sort of be more balanced in our awareness, be aware of all the different things that are going on, and to include the things that feel okay, or the things that feel joyful, as well as the things that feel difficult. So it's a kind of equalizer in a way.
Wonderful. I've noticed over the last couple of weeks, there's a lot of people are reaching out to me who are really suffering, struggling with their levels of anxiety. People who perhaps would normally be very, very busy working and occupying their day with lots of different activities, work, going here, there and everywhere, running around. They're now at home, and now they're not so occupied. They're finding that their levels of frustration, their levels of anxiety are kind of feeling stronger, more intense. And I think for a lot of them, they're looking into an imaginary future, a future that we can't really predict, but they're imagining all sorts of things, like you saying, catastrophizing. They're imagining all sorts of terrible things that could potentially happen to them. And mindfulness is a real cure for this, isn't it?
Yeah, it helps us to come back into the present moment. And of course, our brain is wired to protect us. It's wired so that we look for danger. So part of this catastrophizing is this. It's part of our wiring. It's part of our system trying to protect us. But it also can get a bit out of hand, and we need mindfulness to help us to keep coming back to the present moment, because this is the only thing that's actually real. What we're actually experiencing now. And if we can connect with our body, even if we can just feel into our fingertips or feel into our toes, when we do that, it takes us out of the part of our mind that's ruminating, that's catastrophizing, that's kind of ramping up those feelings and making us feel really stressed out. So when we come, just by connecting with the body, we can switch into a different network of the brain, and it helps us to relax. It helps us to come out of those sort of, it's like being on the hamster wheel when you're on that those thoughts going round and round, and then it's like when you become aware of your body, you can step off the hamster wheel and chill a bit.
Wonderful.
So the present moment coming into the body are things that help you to step off that wheel.
So it gets you out of that fight, flight, gotta protect myself, I'm in danger mode, and it puts you in a place where you're connecting with the present moment, with the now, with your physical body. That takes you out of that kind of scary, anxious space and puts you in a more calm space. And then I guess in combination with yoga and stretches, we're moving our body, and we're able to release some of those fight and flight chemicals that have been surging around our system, that are there, so we can run like mad or we can fight, and it helps to change how we're feeling in this present moment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and having it's really important that we have exercise during this time, so that we can move some of those feelings, those feelings of anxiety, that kind of energy in the body that's being created by the, as you say, the fight flight chemicals, the adrenaline that's kind of coursing through the system. So it's great that the government recognizes that we can get, you know, that it's okay to get out and have exercise. Or some people might have it like I was speaking to one of my clients the other day who said he's got like a treadmill now in the house because he doesn't want to go out at all because he's got various health complications, so he wants to stay in. So, and he lives in a flat, so he's got a little treadmill, so he can run inside and he can do his tai chi and qigong and yoga practice and things like that too. Yeah. So on the one hand, it's really good to do something cardio. It's good to burn off that energy. It's also good for our immune system as well. And obviously, we're how to stay healthy, how to so if we do get the virus, we want to be as resilient as we can be. We want our body to be in good shape. So so physical exercise is good for that. And then there's also the aspect of helping us to relax. And whether it's yoga or whether it's another kind of exercise, it helps to discharge the energy so that then our system can come down. So then we can come back to back into balance, into homeostasis. And the system is designed for us to be active and to relax and be active and relax. And that's like the normal. We would expect that wave through our day when we were, even if we're in balance, you know, we do this ideally. But it's when we get really stressed and we get stuck there. We can't come back down. That's when it becomes a problem. Or our energy goes really, really low and we get stuck in that low lethargic place, that kind of freeze mode. So it's how do we come out of those places and just inhabit this middle kind of ground where we can naturally mobilize energy when we need to, and then come down again and relax. And then we can, you know, we sleep better when we can do that. We can switch off.
So the combination of mindfulness and bringing yourself into the present moment and movement are really going to be fabulously powerful tools that we can use right now at this challenging time, this time of change, this time of transformation. And it's we're talking transformation this month. When I picked the topic for transformation this month, I had no idea how much transformation we were going to be going through, but we really are. Our daily lives are changing quite dramatically. How we work is changing quite dramatically, and these tools, movement and mindfulness, they're great tools, aren't they, to help us through any kind of transformational process, any changes, be they good changes or difficult, challenging changes.
Yeah.
So,
and the other kind of aspect, sorry.
No, go for it.
The other aspect is when we bring in the compassion as well, because when things are tough, we can often be really hard on ourselves. We can be quite critical of ourselves or blame ourselves for how we feel. And if we can kind of engage with that sense of kindness towards ourselves, so that even when things are hard, can we let our inner voice be less critical and kinder? Can we allow ourselves just to be with how we're feeling? And that it's like creating a kind of inner kind of softening, which feels so much nicer. And probably makes us much nicer to be around, because when we're softer inside, we tend to we tend to give that also to other people. That's kind of reflected in our relationships with others. We tend to be less critical of others when we're less critical of ourselves. And
So by doing some acts of mindfulness, you are being in the present moment. You can really start to listen to that inner voice, because a lot of us are not even aware that we have that little inner voice, but there is a little inner voice, isn't there?
Yeah.
That quite often is quite cruel, it's quite critical. That inner voice doesn't tend to say, oh, you're doing so well today, you look great, and haven't you done a fabulous job of taking care of your kids and preparing beautiful food, or haven't you done well at homeschooling today, you've given that a really good go and you've achieved something. That inner voice doesn't tend to do that, does it? That inner voice tends to say, you know, you're lazy, you're fat, you're not doing enough, you're not adequate enough, and that critical inner voice. If we can be mindful, we can start really hearing that critical inner voice, and then we can kind of flip it and use that kindness, that compassion, and we can say kind and compassionate things to ourselves. And I love what you said about how that can make us sort of almost become a positive influence on other people. Like that positivity becomes contagious. Let's have that and spread that positivity around. It's wonderful. So tell me a little bit more about how did you end up doing this remarkable work? What was your journey into becoming such an amazing practitioner and therapist?
Well, I guess it came out of my own struggle and ill health, and I wasn't very well as a teenager. I had a lot of sort of throat problems and a kind of eating disorders, that kind of thing, and then it kind of culminated when I was studying my degree, and I was really ill with chronic fatigue, and of 3 years I was in a bit of a mess, really, and it was quite a struggle, and I kind of got better from that, but not and I don't really know how, because people often say, oh, you know, is that when you found yoga? But that wasn't when I found yoga, but it did make me I got more functional, but I wasn't really well. I was just well enough to hold down a job and to just muddle through, really. But it made me think about my health, and it made me, I think at that stage I probably wasn't looking after myself terribly well. And it wasn't until I worked in the library, and then I trained as an information scientist, and I was doing that work in the City of London, and it was very sort of high pressure environment, and it wasn't one that I felt very comfortable in. It wasn't really where I belong, and quite kind of stressful being there. And I got more and more upset and anxious and panicky. And when I started having panic attacks, I was like, oh, okay, I need to do something about this. And so I started looking for some help, and I started having some counselling, and I found a reflexologist who helped me relax through reflexology. She also talked to me about my diet, and she was the one who kind of nudged me to do yoga, but at that point I wasn't ready to do it, and I didn't try it then. And then a couple of years later, I moved. I left my job, and and my partner and I started doing up a van to go traveling in. And so this was like a new adventure. I kind of left London,
Cool.
I left the job that I wasn't suited to, and we went off on this adventure. So we went for 4 months around Czechoslovakia, or Czech and Slovak Republic, Hungary, Poland, East Germany, and had an amazing summer. And whilst we were in Prague, we were staying on an eco farm, and at that time I was getting really interested in growing food. And as we were going around, we were working on different farms, and which was a lovely way to meet people, meet local people and hang out with them. And so that was really good. And we were working on at an eco centre in Prague, on the edge of the city. And this woman kept showing up every day, who was a yoga teacher. And one day she invited us to go back to her flat and to do a yoga class. And so she taught us this lovely class, and then she cooked us a meal, and it was a really lovely way to begin yoga. And then she had this eco center that she was setting up south of Prague, and invited us to go down, and I think she was looking for cheap labor really, and we went down and we worked on her project, working in the fields in the sunshine, and in the morning and in the evening she taught us yoga. So we did that for a few days, and then and then we carried on practicing. Whether we were camping, we sort of practice out in the open air, or we practiced in someone's house, and then eventually we came back to the UK, and I started doing classes.
Wow.
So it all started in Prague in 1997.
Gosh, so you've been teaching yoga for many, many years now.
Yeah.
1997 doesn't sound that long ago to me, but it really is. So as well as a yoga teacher, and as well as teaching since 1997 that beautiful practice of yoga that is such great movement, I've been doing these little videos just recently of stretches and movement and little exercises that people can do to take care of their back, because I usually work as a massage therapist as well as a clinical hypnotherapist, and at the moment massage is not available. So I have a lot of clients who are emailing me and texting me and saying, I've got really bad back pain, help me. So I put together some, and a lot of the stretches and a lot of the movement that I recommend does come from yoga practices, because it's so beneficial, isn't it? If you've got tightness in your neck and shoulders, if you've got pain in your lower back, it's great at maintaining flexibility, isn't it, yoga? And that's what we really need at this time. We need to get off the couch and maintain our flexibility. So as well as yoga, you also did a 3-year training course and became a shamanic practitioner. Now this is fascinating. Tell me a little bit more about shamanic work. What is a shamanic healer, and what is a shamanic practitioner? Tell me a little bit more about that, because that's really interesting.
Well, that came out of a few years ago, probably, I don't know, 12 years ago maybe. I met the woman who was my teacher, Carol Day, and she started doing like a moon group once a month. So we'd meet on the new moon, and we'd tune into the new moon energy, and we were kind of working with the sun cycles, and I kind of, yeah, it was a different approach to yoga. Although yoga is basically it is an ancient shamanic tradition, but in terms of how we think of shamanism now, shamanism has a, you tend to work with drumming, and whereas we're connecting with another world, or connecting with other parts of ourselves in that kind of magical kind of way. And for me, I think so I started working with her on and off through various different courses, connected. A lot of it's around connecting with nature, and for me it helped me to get out into nature and see it in a different way, seeing it from getting out of my kind of logical mind, and stepping into, it's like stepping it through a veil into something that's where there's different possibilities, where things aren't the way that we normally see them, where there's when we hold a bigger vision, and it brought me into a sort of closer connection and relationship with nature. And it also, Carol's work is called creative shamanism, and she's an artist as well. And for me, creativity was something that I had a block with. I had a block from being a child, and so that's something I've needed to do some healing around. That where that what created that block. But for a long time, I just thought I wasn't a creative person. And I probably thought that until I was in my maybe early 30s. And then at some point, I kind of woke up and I just thought, that can't be true. It can't be true that I'm not a creative person, because we're all creative. And we guess we express it in different ways, or, you know, I've got a hang up about it, but it can't be true that I'm not a creative person. So that became, I suppose, started a journey of exploring what creativity meant for me, and how I could express that without feeling that I couldn't do it, or I wasn't good at it. My father was an architect, and he drew really beautifully and could paint. And I think as a young child, I really wanted to have that ability, and I didn't. I quite clearly didn't. It wasn't the whole picture, but that was kind of, I think, me wanting that also kind of blocked me in actually expressing myself in the way that's you know, my creativity. And I found that when I was doing the shamanic work, that it helped me to step out of that block and to just be open to what creativity means for me. And one of the things that we might do is we might do a drumming journey where we would connect with we maybe connect with a power animal, and we maybe ask a question to take to another layer of our consciousness. And then when we came back, we might express it with crayons or paints or something. And I found that much easier than actually trying to draw something that looks like something, but just expressing something that I've experienced in a way without any judgment, suddenly release something that felt very joyful, where I didn't have any hang-ups about it.
And creativity is something that, I guess, while we're all stuck at home, it's something that we've got some time to invest in, whether it be musical, like with your drumming, or with musical instruments, or singing, or dancing, or whether it be getting the crayons out and just having a go at creating something bright and bold and beautiful that, you know, is an expression of how you're feeling. It doesn't have to be that you're a fine artist and you can create something, you know, you're going to sell in an art gallery. It's about enjoying that creative energy. I connect my creativity to my inner child, and I love colouring in. I love kind of like making collage. I just get old magazines and just cut pictures out and put them on and do things like that. And I guess this is the time, isn't it? We're going to sit at home. You've got a couple of options. You can sit on your sofa and watch Netflix, or you could sit around the table together and create something and have that beautiful creativity time. So important, isn't it, to be able to express ourselves through some kind of a creative process.
Yeah, it's reminded me that this morning I was talking to one of my clients online before our online class, and I was asking her what she'd been up to, and she said, her and her partner have done various little projects, and one of them was that she's been wanting to do something with the downstairs toilet, and they had this idea of doing a collage on one of the walls, and they've made it like a spring collage. They've got loads of magazines and cut out pictures of flowers and plants and lambs, and he's put it all on the wall, and her daughter came in and was convinced it was wallpaper, but it's actually all cut out pieces, and so she's thrilled with it.
Oh, that sounds like a great idea.
Really lovely idea.
Yeah, unique decorating.
Yeah.
I was talking to a friend the other day who let her kids loose with paint and their hands, and they've done some hand painting again on the walls in the house. Like normally that would be something that's forbidden, no paint on your hands, no paint anywhere near the walls, but she just thought, you know what, let them be creative, let them have fun. And they've made, I think she was saying that some of them had done rainbows with their hands, and just what a beautiful idea to have your own family's artwork on the wall, or an amazing interior design idea in your bathroom. Just from kind of like just spending a little bit of time planning and thinking and putting that creative energy there. So one of the areas that you really focus on is trauma work, and this is how I kind of found out about you really through this. What is trauma?
Well, trauma is a dysregulation of the nervous system, and it happens when we have an experience that's too much, that our nervous system is overwhelmed. We're physiologically overwhelmed, we're psychologically overwhelmed, and this can be from an event that happens, maybe an accident. It can be from an illness or surgery. It can be from childhood, and it can be from the stress of modern life, or the sort of, we're in a kind of collective trauma at the moment, in terms of what's going on in our society, in our world. And for a lot of people, that will be feeling very overwhelming. So it comes in kind of different shapes and sizes, but it's something that wasn't really talked about very much till quite recently. It's something that there's new knowledge now available about what goes on with trauma, and much more awareness about how it impacts our life. And the fact that we all are affected by trauma, we all have trauma in our system. And for some people, it's a really big deal. It's really overwhelming, and it really affects their ability to function in society. And for other people, for a lot of people, it's more kind of low level, that they're functioning, and that, maybe they've got great jobs and stuff, but there's still that trauma in the system still affects the way they feel about things, certain behaviors, or maybe addictive patterns, and or ability to relax. It might be a creator of chronic illness. So most of us have got stuff in our system which would be really beneficial to work through, to kind of let go, to move, so that we can flourish, really, so that we can be in better health, so we can find more joy in life. Because we kind of get stuck. The trauma is actually the energy that's stuck in the system. So it may be something that happened a long time ago, but at that time, in the overwhelm, the energy of that, the flight energy, couldn't release, and it's stuck in the body, stuck in the tissues of the body, stuck in the nervous system of the body. So, and that's with us in the present moment, so it's affecting us all the time, even if we're not very aware of it. So
and I guess that trauma can manifest as things like too much online shopping, too much spending of money in places, that kind of addictive shopping, or drinking too much, or smoking, or feeling overwhelmed, getting upset about things, feeling angry about things, feeling frustrated about situations, and it can also manifest as a physical illness as well. I know that I work a lot with clients with fibromyalgia, and we usually find that the root cause of those kind of low energy, kind of invisible illnesses, if you like, because people with fibro look like you and I, who look healthy and active and normal, and then they have days where they're just completely exhausted and have no energy at all, and chronic fatigue things. And usually, if you go back and trace it back to when that first started, it could be, like you were saying, like a heavy cold, or a flu, or an accident, or something somebody said, or an experience at work where they were bullied, or a relationship breakdown, a divorce, or it could be any number of things, but the root is in that trauma, and they haven't been able to like get rid of that fight or flight energy. Their body has stored it in their cells, in their nervous system, and the brain wants to keep you safe, your mind wants to keep you safe, so then you end up having all sorts of behavioural problems, behavioural reactions, because they are reactions as opposed to responses, because they tend to be an instant response as opposed to a thought out, how am I going to react in respond in this situation. It can be kind of an outpouring of aggression or emotion. It can come in all different ways. And I know that people do in their lives have lots of coping mechanisms in place. And it might be that that coping mechanism is drinking too much, or it might be that that coping mechanism is staying in bed all day. What can we do? What can we do to help us to heal these traumas that might be causing lots of these behavioural problems? And I would imagine right now, when people are locked in at home, those behavioural problems, those thoughts and feelings, those reactions may be coming right up to the surface, and maybe being present within ourselves or with other people. What can we do? What can we do?
Yeah, well, the journey really is about connecting to the body, because these sensations are in the body. And although we may or may not have had talking therapy to help us understand the story of what happens to us, which can be really valuable, but it doesn't necessarily help to move the energy that's in the body. So we want to connect with the body, but it can be really hard to connect with the body. So when we've had trauma, the actual landscape of the body can feel really uncomfortable. When we connect with our body, we can have overwhelming feelings. So it can be hard to be still. It can be hard to do a relaxation class. Maybe you know, you go to yoga. For some people, they like the physical movements, but when it comes to the relaxation at the end, they find that really hard. And sometimes people just get up and go because it's too much. So when we're working with trauma, it's like, well, how do we gradually start to build a relationship with the body in a way that feels safe? So we're working with that, how to feel safe in the mind, how to feel safe in the body. And so there's various sort of techniques to help us to bring that sense of safety on board. So it's a kind of regulation of the nervous system. And we might do that by looking around the room, like it's something called orienting. So animals do this naturally. You know, they kind of, if they hear a noise, they'll see, you know, they'll check it out, and they'll generally sort of scan around and look for danger. And this is something that we would have done, and we've lost the habit of doing. But it's a really useful thing to do when we're in a safe place. We're in our own room. Maybe we feel like our body's going into that fight flight mode. We're feeling strong sensations, but actually we are safe. And if we look around the room slowly and notice the things that are here, and it's not like we're thinking about, oh, I'm safe in this room. We're just looking and letting our nervous system start to sense that we're safe.
I like that. So if we're feeling anxious and overwhelmed, just sitting and just having a look around and just allowing our eyes to give that really important information to our physical bodies that this is a safe space, that I am in a safe environment and I'm not in danger. It's really, really important, because I've noticed as well with, I mean, I'm a big fan of breath work. I find it's incredibly powerful that you can change the way you breathe, and that has a massive impact on how you feel and how you respond. But if you are anxious and you're breathing like a shallow, anxious breath, sometimes that focus on the breath can actually make you feel worse.
Yeah, so when we're working with trauma, we don't start with the breath. So the breath is when someone's comfortable with the breath, as you say, it can be a really useful tool. But for a lot of people, it can take a long time to get to work with the breath. So when I do my trauma 4-week course, I do a part 1, a level 1, which we work with regulation, but we don't work with the breath. So we do that in part 2. So we use this looking round as a tool. We use connecting with the ground, so grounding, feeling what we're sitting on, our feet, our seat, or maybe feeling our hands sort of squeezing and touching, feeling that contact, like sort of sensing that this is my body. Because often in trauma we get very disconnected from our body. We lose that relationship. So these kind of things where we're just sensing, holding, can help us to sense our body, but also with that pressure, and not if you've got a lot of pain in that part of the body, but if it's comfortable, like a deep pressure can feel quite soothing to the nervous system. So we kind of move in this sort of mindful, attentive way, sensing the body, and that can feel quite grounding. And then we might do some movements where we move in a fluid way, in a flowing way, and we find that sort of a rhythm. So for something simple like, raising the arms up and then lowering the arms back down, and whatever the movement is, it's finding the rhythm and letting it be a smooth movement, so that the body registers that, the nervous system registers that as being soothing. Whereas if it's jerky, then it'll register as not soothing. So it's finding a soothing movement and finding a rhythm. And often when we find that rhythm, the breath starts to sync with the movement. But we don't have to think about the breath. We can just use that movement to help the breath to start to slow down. So it's a kind of like a backdoor way of getting into to use the breath as regulation without going straight there.
So looking around the room and allowing your eyes to tell your body that you're safe, and then enjoying flowing, soothing movements that are not jerky or fast, but slow and rhythmic movement that also then tell the body that they're safe and nurtured and okay in that space as well, and the breath just comes into line with that.
So yeah, it can, and I think the thing is, if people are not wanting to think about the breath, we may not even mention the breath, because some people, when I mention the breath, they immediately feel panicky. So if I'm sensing that's going on, I wouldn't even mention the breath. But I know that when we do those slow movements, that there's probably some syncing of breath starting to happen, and it might not come on immediately, but it will. We're just gradually taking people in the right direction with them. So it's practice, and it's creating new pathways. Yeah.
Amazing. It's absolutely fantastic work, and it's so effective. And I know that you teach trauma sensitive yoga. Is that very similar to what we've been talking about?
So yeah, this is what I'm teaching. So I will use that orienting and that grounding at the beginning of a session to help people to settle, and maybe the arms up and down is a nice way of regulating the breath. And then in trauma sensitive yoga we'll use some of the regular postures. Maybe there's certain postures that we might avoid because they might be triggering for people, but I do tend to do quite a few standing postures, or if people are, there's always the option to do stuff on a chair, but we tend to do something that's a bit active. It's not just about calming down, because when we've got that anxiety in the body, we need to move the energy. So we kind of need to meet the sensation. So the more kind of anxiety there is, the more that we kind of need to meet that. And when that energy has had a chance to express itself, then the system can naturally come down. So depending on what group is that you're working with, and what kind of what's needed within that group, there's that sense of moving enough to actually be able to discharge that energy and to come down to that place of relaxation. So we use postures, we use these smooth rhythmic movements, going in and out of postures. And I also use choice a lot, because something that's a feature of trauma is that we've usually been in a position where we haven't had a choice. We haven't had a choice about a situation. So in yoga, we can embody having a choice. So I can offer choices in movement, and then people can decide what feels right for their body. And then as they do that, their body is practicing taking a choice. So it's like a mind body mind body choosing, and that is then a skill that, or yeah, it's like a new way of being that they can take into their life, and that may have been something that they found hard to access.
Wow. So it's a real combination of helping your body understand as well as your mind understand that they're safe, using like regulation or regulating techniques, and then it's using movement to discharge that kind of stress, anxious, negative energy, and then combining that with what you were saying at the end there, with those other techniques to help you to feel in control, and feel empowered. Because quite often when you've had a trauma, you do feel like you've had your power taken away from you. You've been in a situation that's been out of your control. So it must be so wonderful to feel again that you are now in control of your emotions, of your feelings, of your responses. So it's an amazing practice. And how do you offer these classes?
So, well, at the moment we're online. So they,
Yay!
up until very recently, we were meeting at Shanty Bee. As one class is at Shanty Bee, which is a holistic wellbeing centre in Byker, where there's lots of great things going on, different yoga classes and therapies and stuff. I was doing
So
a trauma
that's
centre.
Shanty Bee,
Shanty Bee
and that's a holistic wellbeing centre in Byker.
in Byker. Yeah,
Great. I love that
yeah,
it's local to us here.
yeah. So you can find that on Facebook. Yeah. And then I've also, over the last few years, been doing some work at Tyneside Women's Health, which is an organisation that provides mental health support for women. So I've done some mindfulness work there and some trauma sensitive yoga and relaxation there, on a regular
Wonderful.
basis. So that's that's a really great organisation. And I've also been I put together a course, a trauma sensitive yoga course, a 4-week course, which I've been delivering at the Newcastle Meditation Centre. And that's been sort of like an ongoing thing. And now the work at the Shanty Bee class, which is a drop-in, and the 4-week course are both gone online.
Amazing.
And they're just rolling on. We'll be carrying on going online for as long as we need to. And I think that having done that experience online, and I've got some people coming to the class who don't live locally, who really want that work and who couldn't be involved before. I think that I'll probably carry on a class afterwards that's an online class, so that I can reach people who may be not feeling well enough to come out, because I often with fibromyalgia, and chronic fatigue and that kind of thing, or people with a lot of pain, and it might be that they really want to connect with others, they want to move a bit, they want to breathe or do relaxation, but they don't really fancy getting on a bus or getting to the side of town. Or so I think this online work is so valuable in reaching people, and working with Zoom. We can do this, we can talk, we can practice together, and then we can share in a group and really feel that there's still that group feeling there, there's still that feeling of connection, and quite a lot of people are living on their own, and they're just finding it so good to meet up and to have that connected space. So I used to be a bit of a technophobe, but I'm just so grateful for that we have this at this time. It is amazing. Yeah.
I mean, that's your transformation right there, isn't it? Going from somebody who's not comfortable with using technology to somebody who's now actually taking their work and doing it online so that more people can have access to it. And I'm absolutely delighted that you're taking it online, because there are a lot of people who can't get to a class because they've got children. They can't get to a class because they're not well enough. They can't get to a class because they're isolated at home, but they can't get to a class because they haven't got the energy, and it really does make that 4-week program of yours, or the kind of drop-in classes, so much more accessible to people. It's wonderful, it really is. And if I was wanting to join you for the 4-week program, or if I was wanting to join you for a drop-in class, how would I go about doing that?
Well, if you want to, I have a website which has all my stuff on it. So, and my business name is Yoga is for Life. So my website is www.yogaisforlife.co.uk. So
Yoga
that's
is for life. I love that, because it really is, isn't it? It's a fantastic practice to
yeah.
add into your life. So that does really just say everything about what you do. This is for life. This is a thing that you can do to enhance your life, to enhance your well-being, to feel more connected to yourself, to be brave and be creative, and to manage any trauma, to release trauma, and to manage your emotions in the now, in the present moment too. So it's wonderful. I love that name. It's great. So we can find you online. And do I need any special equipment? Do I need if I haven't got a yoga mat, or if I haven't got, do I need special clothes? Whenever I see people doing yoga on the internet, they're all in fabulous yoga outfits, and they've all got these amazing mats and everything. Do I need to have any of those things?
Not really, no. I mean, it's just wear comfortable clothes. Some people like to use a mat, but we don't. Yeah, it's a kind of optional thing, really. We're not doing sort of big sort of postures where we really do need a lot of uh, if you feel you're a bit slippy slidey, you might want to use a mat. But maybe if you're on your, if you're at home and you've got the carpet, maybe that's fine if you get enough kind of grip from your carpet. We're not doing the splits, and we're not doing, we're not doing these kind of big fancy.
It's just as well, because I really don't think I'd manage to do the splits, and if I did, I'd never get back out of them.
No, not so I've ever even aspired to do. But yeah, I mean, if you have a hard floor, it's probably nice to have a mat of some kind underneath you, or a blanket. Or so the thing about being at home is people have more like accessories. You've got your cushions and your pillows and your blankets, and you can kind of get around you what you need. So yeah, just about being comfortable, and also if you want to do it on a chair, that's absolutely fine. So some people in the groups they might do some standing, some sitting. They might stand for a bit and then think, oh, that's enough, I'm going to sit now. Or they might do it all sitting. And I really like having classes when everyone's doing different things. I might have someone lying on the floor, someone lying on a couch, someone sitting on a chair, someone standing, and they're all doing like their own version of what I'm offering. So it's really about finding our own way, doing what's right for our body, and letting it feel nice. It's not a competition, and it's not about how it looks. It's about how it feels, about doing something that feels good, feels nurturing.
I think what you're doing is actually giving people a real opportunity. You're supporting people in that opportunity to do something positive for themselves, to make the most out of this time where we are kind of in isolation. It's great. There are so many good things that are actually coming out of this. We seem to be spending more time with friends and family. I've noticed my life has completely slowed down. I seem to spend a lot of time rushing here and rushing there, and chasing my tail to get the next little bit of work done, or to speak to the next person, or phone that person. And I'm actually really enjoying this process of just slowing right down, and having the opportunity to join a class like what you offer. There's some good things coming out of this, isn't there?
Yeah, I'm loving the slowing down too. And even though I've been quite busy with work, I haven't been driving for 2 hours a day, which, as well as being great for pollution levels, it means that I've got those 2 hours I'm turning to spend dog walking and gardening. So this year our garden's going to be probably the best ever. We're growing lots of vegetables, and so we've been doing lots of sowing seeds, and I feel so good when I have my hands in the soil. It's one of the ways that I one of the ways I nurture myself, and also one of the ways that I realize how I express my creativity. So it's a great joy. So yes, I'm very grateful for more time to
I
do.
was talking with a really good friend of mine yesterday who is getting married this year, and she has her wedding in a couple of months, and she was planning an absolutely enormous wedding in a beautiful big hotel, and lots of friends, lots and lots of family, lots and lots of expense. Quite a stressful thing organising a big wedding like that. And because of the current situation, they've had to cancel that big wedding. And to begin with, she was, devastated. We all were devastated on her behalf, actually. But now she said she's really come round to a different way of thinking, and that actually, for her, what's really important is that she's marrying this amazing man that she loves, and she's going to now have this really beautiful, small, intimate wedding. And we were talking together just the other night about how this situation is making us focus on what's really valuable to us in our lives, what's really important to us, and all of that big wedding, the big expensive wedding, having all of those people present, that actually wasn't, when she really thought about it, that actually wasn't important at all. It was the fact that she wanted to have this wedding, just get married to her lovely partner. And I do think it's helping us to reflect and put into perspective and connect with our values.
Yeah, definitely. It's and I hope we're going to take that, that's going to stay with us. We're going to take that forward, and we're going to maybe come out of this with things things being different and more positive, and there's been a lot of connection and kindness. And although we've you hear stories of things that aren't so kind, but on the whole it feels like a lot of people wanting to support each other, and really stepping into that evolved part of our nervous system, which is the compassionate part, the caring part, the bonding, and when we're in that place of kindness and connection, it feels good, and it enables us to stay with the difficult stuff. It produces oxytocin, and when we have oxytocin, we don't have as much fear. When we have oxytocin, it helps us to be with the stress, to not run away from what's difficult, to stay present, and it's like that sense of, okay, this is difficult, but I've got this. I'm okay. I can manage. So it's a real resilience skill of moving into this more evolved part of the nervous system, and just acts of kindness they're so good for our immune system as well. When we have when we step into that part, when the oxytocin gets flowing, we feel good, and it's really good for our health. So that's my kind of wish for the world, really, is that that we kind of evolve our way through this, and we flourish more and care about each other more, care about the planet more.
It does feel a little bit like it is a time of transformation. It's a time of evolution, and it's an opportunity for us, isn't it, to come into alignment with our values, with what's important for us. It's a time for us to think about our impact on the planet. And I was looking online this morning at how much the planet has healed already, just as a result of our lack of interaction. Air pollution is down, and the water is much cleaner already. And it's only just been a few weeks of less human interaction with the planet in the way that we normally do. These changes do seem to be having quite a positive impact in lots of different ways. So if you were going to give me your top tips on how to survive, how to evolve, how to use this time as a time of growth, as a time of transformation, what would your top tips be? I was throw this one in at the end. What are your top tips?
I think keep reminding yourself of what's important to you and what you love, and what you're grateful for. And so, yeah, it's good to have that kind of guiding principle, and also that gratitude brings a sense of gratitude, and connecting with the things we love brings us into that more evolved part of the nervous system. And remembering kindness, and we get the benefit of kindness when we give it, when we receive it, when we give it to ourselves and we receive it from ourselves, and also when we watch acts of kindness, just by maybe watching in a film. When we see an act of kindness, our body registers that, and it produces the chemicals. So it's really, kindness is really powerful. Yeah, remember kindness.
Oh, thank you so much, Sally, for coming on today and talking all about what you do. And please, could I share the information that you have on your website on our Radio Shields page, and on my podcast too, so that people can find you and find your classes? That would be absolutely wonderful. And I'm incredibly grateful that you've been on today. That's some really good advice there, and really interesting to chat with you about the incredible work that you do. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been great chatting to you.
All right, you take really good care of yourself, and I think we're all telling each other to stay well at the moment as well, aren't we?
Stay safe.
Stay safe and stay well. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you. Bye-bye.